With a racing history dating back over 70 years, the town of Watkins, Glen has solidified itself as a motorsports mecca. In fact, with the incredible variety of cars and series that have run here, you could say as long as it has wheels and an engine, they'll race it. But any track as popular as this place with that many years under its belt is bound to pick up a nickname. And for drivers and fans, it's known simply as the Glen. Who will add their name to the history books today? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 5 of the V-TEC GTR series, and you'll see it all live on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. While we wax poetically about the journey of this circuit, we can't forget that part of its draw is the nature of the track itself. So let's step in for a closer look at Watkins Glen International. Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time. There you see a little bit of the features around Watkins Glen here as the sun rises currently over practice. Championship is well on its way to closing up, and we could see some of those championships wrapped up today. Let's start, of course, with the GT3 cars. This is the GT class itself. Callum Wright is 54 points ahead of Tobias Burka, 75 points for a win, so we could see Callum Wright clinch it today. Eidelberg way back there in third, and Nick Brown a few more points behind him. And then we've got another leap of about 25 or so points back to Richard Galuska, who we understand won't be returning this season, hence why he has fallen to 5th despite having a lot of speed. What about the TCR championship here, Sam?
Well, before we even bring it up, I'm going to say Marcus Walton has a pretty handy lead because he's been doing very well throughout the season. And here we go. We're about to show you that graphic. And sure enough, Mark Walton has a 102-point lead over Simon Jacobson, who is not here today. Tobias Olsen is here today, and he's only about 20 points back of Jacobson, so he might be able to get second in the points there. Then you have to go back a little bit until you get to Jens Ludwig, who is trying to hold off Niels Hundenhedge for 4th and 5th.
Now, for today's race, actually we should say races, here's our details of what we've got in store. Technically rounds 8 and 9 out of 10, as we'll have one more Enduro after this. There's the two classes, the Audi R8, if I could say it right, and the Audi RS3 TCR, the newest car to come here to iRacing. They are under a fixed setup, so drivers don't really have to fiddle with that too much. Just hop in the car, find some speed. We have 2 races, as I mentioned, a sprint race and a feature race, a 15-minute and a 30-minute. And they do have penalty points if they get too many incidents. Every 10 incident, they lose 3 points on the championship. As we've seen with them so spread out, I'm not sure that it'll affect it too much, especially here where the barriers are so close and you shouldn't have too many opportunities to go off track and collect those that much. Now, as always, we want to remind you about our new merchandise store here on GSRC. When you get the opportunity, go check it out. We've got a link below. We have beanies in there. Now, these are pretty cool. These can actually save you up to 20% on car insurance, and that has no way been stolen from any sort of other advertising pitch anywhere ever. But $17, and you can maybe save a bit on your car insurance in the process. Looking out at the warm-up, looks like Tobias Burka not doing too bad here up in the GT class. And, well, you talked about it there in the championship as there's some problems there in warm-up there for some of our GT cars. But, Sam, you talked about it in the points. Marcus Walton, again, just proved to be incredibly difficult to beat on pace.
Yeah, and he's definitely been quite quick here in qualifying. In practice rather. Now we're advancing to qualifying, so these drivers now have 10 minutes. The track might get a little bit crowded, but hopefully they'll be able to spread themselves out enough. There's not a whole lot of cars in this series, so they should be able to find their own place on this track. And but that being said, Joe, do you really want to do that? You can get a nice tow down the back straight here. Granted, we are running the Watkins Glen configuration that has the well, not only do we run the boot configuration, but we also have the inner loop. So that's going to break up that slipstream a little bit going up the hill. So that's where this pack of cars is approaching now. But I wonder if we will see some games played during this qualifying session where drivers will try and get around on each other. And maybe if they do, that can topple the big dogs like Marcus Walton from the top spot of his class. And of course, race results will grid drivers up for race 2.
Sorry, we saw James Payne get spun there on his outlap, and though it didn't result in any contact, he pulled right back into the racing line of Tobias Burka as he was coming out of the inner loop. Actually, it did result in a little bit of body damage. It looks like Chris Howard got into the wall trying to avoid that, so he came back out. Still, it was only an outlap, but that certainly won't endear him to his fellow drivers. You talked about it, 12 drivers out here today, 6 in each class, so it seems to be evenly split among them. We have heard that the TCR cars do provide a little bit of a slipstream that could provide a pass, so I have to imagine some of those might be trying to play some games coming up the hill. But coming up the hill during the race is actually what's going to intrigue me, Sam, because there's a few spots around here where we've got the racing line switching back and forth, and that's one of those. And these two classes have quite a bit of difference in lap time, so I'm kind of wondering if that's a bit of a danger zone in terms of trying to overtake lap traffic.
Yeah, it could potentially be. You never know how lap traffic is going to play out. Right now, Alex Sake, who we have on screen, doesn't have to worry about any of that. We go away from him now. But these are the drivers starting their first timed laps. And these drivers at the front, obviously, they're not getting a tow off of anybody, which, as we mentioned, could be impacting them. These drivers not going to have a heck of a lot of time for a lot of laps, Joe. It takes about 2 minutes to get around here. It is kind of easy to get an incident point at some places on this course, particularly the inner loop, depending on how aggressive you want to be there. But that being said, you might not want to be too aggressive in the inner loop, given the fact that going over those curbs can upset the car. So we're back on board Alex Sake here. He will be the first driver to put on the lap. He is currently working his way through the boot section down the hill. This long right-hander that just goes on forever. And now a big climb up the hill. So you want to get a good exit out of that previous turn so that you're not a sitting duck down this straight.
You see Fake now coming around the heel of the boot, and this is where they re-enter the Cup course, the one that NASCAR runs around here.
Everyone's favorite corner, this.
Oh, boy. Going through turn 9, and then a very quick one with quite a bit of banking through here, Sam. That's one thing that I kind of enjoy about this track, is that not a lot of road courses nowadays seem to put positive camber into corners, but with how old this track is, it's it's got a lot of banking.
A 1:47.3 was Sake's time in practice, and 1:47.8 will kick things off in qualifying here. So he is running in the faster class, the GTR class. James Payne will be the second car across the line. Can he beat that? No, he has had an off during his lap. Oh wait, no, he
Nope,
hasn't.
nope.
It was just slow.
Yeah, it finally updated. It was a 49.6, so that will put him at the top. Burka as well into fourth. Hoondhedge, the first of our TCR cars to put a lap down. And we're waiting on the next one to come through, which I think is going to be a while back. Yeah, it looks like we'll have to wait until Marcus Walton, who we're expecting to be on the pole, but you never know. Walton sometimes showing he struggles on cold tires. So with this being his first timed lap, he might not be quick this first run around.
Yeah, and maybe that's planned, you know. Maybe he tries to warm up his tires a little bit over the course of 1 or 2 laps. When he crosses the line, there's a couple more TCRs behind him, Ledvig and Howard, so we'll see how fast they go. 2 minutes is the time to beat for Marcus Walton. He ran a 1:58 in practice. He runs a 1:59 to get things started here.
And that does put him ahead of Niels Hoondhedge. And the gap between them actually... Jens Ludwig drops into second place in the meantime. There is about half a second between Ledvig and Walton now. Fake already finishing his second lap. Let's see if he can improve on this 47.8. He's got a handy 1.7 seconds over James Payne, and he's going to improve it. A 47.5 puts him a whole 2 seconds ahead of the next car. Fake is on fire today.
Yeah, well, that's the benefits of being the first car out on track. He hasn't had to worry about traffic or anything. He's just gone out there to do his job. James Payne, though, only a couple hundredths off of him. He just went fast, and Tobias Burka beats both of them.
Wow, Burka's now got the car underneath him. That was a much better lap that time around. So the 171 on your provisional pole for the GT class. We're still waiting on a number of drivers to put a time in. Chris Howard is looking to get one in the TCRs. Tobias Olsen, Nicholas Morelli. Then in the GTs, we've got Winton, Brown, and Wright. Looks like Morelli is going to cross right now. So for the TCR class, Nicholas is going to put himself into third. So the inside of row 2.
It's worth emphasizing again to our viewers that this first race is just a sprint race. 15 minutes. Honestly, lap traffic may not even play a role in this first race.
That's true. It's, let's see, what is the lap differences that we're seeing between them? A 59.3 for our quickest on the TCRs and a 47.2 for our quickest in the GTs. So about 12 seconds.
Yeah, 58.4 now. Marcus Walton getting his tires warmed up and takes a second ahead of everyone else.
Should point out that Burka and Thake, Thake and Winton, rather, are teammates and looking very, very close. So even though they are on a fixed setup, looks like they've been trading notes out there.
Yeah, Fake not able to improve that lap, so Tobias Burko is still our fastest overall. But still a couple minutes left in the session, enough for 2 more laps for these drivers. Oh, a 1:47.1, James Payne to the top. And now Tobias Burka takes it back.
And we haven't even talked about the track conditions yet. 88 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. It's pretty grippy out there since it's still early morning. So maybe that is why we're seeing drivers continue to drop times as they explore exactly how quickly they can go.
Yeah, I think it's also, a part of what happens with these cars. It seems we normally get them speed up after a couple of laps. Tobias Olsen sitting in second in TCR right now. He's actually had a bit of slipstream from the car in front, but he's had enough during his laps. Won't count.
Nicholas Morelli improved to a 59.6, but stays in the same spot. Walton's going to be the next one to cross the line on that pole position with 8 tenths over the next car. Tobias Olsen around the penultimate corner. And on to the final one. Both of these left and rights very heavily banked, but no runoff out here, all the way out to the edge as he takes that TCR Audi as close as he dares, down and across the line. No improvement this time, though.
Should be worth noting, I think we've had another a GT3 joiners, Glen Ludwig just jumped up to second in TCR, because we actually have 13 cars now, 7 in the GT class and then 6 in TCR.
Well, apologies to our OCD watchers that things have been unbalanced. Chris Howard did not improve that time by as he continues to try and improve. Tobias Burka, quicker yet again. The 171, a 46.5 this time by. In fact, is that our first driver to drop in the 46? Yes, it is.
Yeah, he ran a 146 in practice as well, so he's getting up to speed. All right, we're seeing the clock run down to its closing moments now.
Ooh, Callum Wright up to third now with a 47.4. This is looking a little bit F1 style. It's whoever comes out the latest with the continued improvements as the checkered flag comes out. Everybody now on their final lap. Hundhedge is going to cross. He's last on the TCRs, and he's going to stay last as he does not improve. Tobias Olsen then follows him. He's in third currently in this slower class. Can he go quicker than that 59.3? No, he can't because he had an off somewhere. However, Nicholas Morelli goes quicker, and that bumps him onto the front row.
Yeah, Nicholas Morelli second quickest, but still 7/10 down of Marcus Walton, who will be the next car across the line. He's got Alex Thake behind him. Now, actually, they're so close, I wonder if they had to pass each other at some point during this lap, and that could have cost them both a bit of time. Yeah, and here comes Walton. He's coming in. We'll see what Thake does.
And slows on that final corner. We'll talk about that pit entry in a bit because that could affect the race, but Thake coming around, trying to get back to the top spot. A 47.3 is not going to be good enough for pole, but it does jump him to third.
Yeah, 0.08 of a second over Callum Wright. Chris Howard now coming out the final turn. He currently sits 5th in TCR, so he'll be trying to jump up onto the top 2 rows. Can't do it.
I think Callum Wright's going to be our last one, or does Olsen manage to cross the line in time? Wright comes out of the penultimate corner. He sits in 4th on a 47.4. He's only had 2 timed laps thus far. As it comes down to the line, is this going to do any better on the outside of row 2? He does. It's a 46.9. That's going to put him into second place. So trying to figure out if we saw Olsen cross the line before or after the checkered flag came out here. He's got about 40 seconds left to go as he comes back onto the main course.
He could just be driving very neatly, Joe, but it doesn't look like he's on the ragged edge. So I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't a time lap. But sometimes if you look slow, you're going fast. We'll see. He's going to take it across the line.
Ducks down to the inside as the time goes out. So whether or not he could have completed that lap is immaterial. Let's go to our starting grid for today. Tobias Burka on the pole for the GT class. Callum Wright will be starting next to him, but it's a decent gap between them of about 0.4 of a second. James Payne will be starting on the inside of row 2 with Alex Thake starting in the 4th spot. Then you've got Sam Winton starting P5. And then outside of row 3, it is Nick Brown. Lucas Eidelberg, the last of our field of 7 cars in the GT class today.
Yeah, Marcus Walton will be on pole in TCR ahead of Nicholas Morelli, who was 7/10 behind him, but will be right beside him on the grid. Glen Ludwig will be starting from 3rd ahead of Tobias Olsen, and then Chris Howard and Niels Hundhedge will rest out the field.
Rolling start with this being a multi-class race, and we've got a little bit of time before they get going. So once again, a reminder that we have a merchandise store here for GSRC now that is at gsrc.storeenvy.com, where you can get those cool beanies. If you're too lazy to type it in, don't worry, we got you covered. Just scroll down into the YouTube description where we have a link for you marked there. See them just about all lined up as they wait to get going behind the Porsche pace car. It always impresses me just how popular this track remains among drivers, especially here on iRacing, Sam. It seems to be tracks like this that are very fast and not terribly technical, like Watkins Glen, that tends to bring a lot of drivers out. I mean, do you think it's an ease of racing thing? Do you think it's an ease of passing thing? What's your theory on why we tend to see this one get a lot of people showing up?
Yeah, I think a little bit of column A and B there. It is one of the easier road courses. That doesn't mean it's not tricky at all. It's also easy to throw it away at some parts of tracks, but off the track. But there's not a whole lot of switchbacks. It's turn straight, turn straight, turn straight, and that makes it a bit simpler for some drivers who may not like chicanes and such. But at the same time, it produces some great racing. The straights allow you to get a toe and make a move on the car in front. There's walls around here, though, that punish you when you do get it wrong. It's just got, an interesting combination of factors that make it a popular circuit. I enjoy watching races here. I don't always enjoy being in them if I know it's going to be pack racing and I'm going to have to be on top of my game the whole time. I'm probably going to end up in a wreck. But I don't think we're going to see that today, honestly. I think we're going to see close racing, but I wouldn't be surprised if the skill level of these drivers, considering how hard these cars are to drive, if we see the field get a little bit spread out after a few laps through the technical portions of the circuit.
Bad news for Nicholas Morelli fans. Despite him putting it second on the grid, well, unfortunately, his wheel tried to reset when he tried to grid, so he couldn't get out there and start with the field. He's going to have to start from pit lane. He was a little bit upset since that was his best qualifying all season long. Interesting to note, this is one of the real-world tracks I've actually been to watch races, Sam. I got to see the NASCAR race here in 1998. And I have a tire, an actual race tire, sitting next to me right here that was run by John Andretti. They were selling used slicks for fans to try and pick up. And I've got the number 43 chalked in on it. It's been with me since then. I was in about ninth grade at the time, a freshman in high school. And it's been one of my favorite little trinkets that I've carried with me for ever since then.
No, I've never made it up to Watkins, Glen. But then I tell you that when I drive from Charlotte to my parents in Richmond, Virginia, that I pass Charlotte Motor Speedway, South Boston Speedway. I get close to Richmond International, now just Richmond Raceway, Southside Speedway, which isn't on iRacing, but one day it might be. So I think I can always come back at you with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I am currently not located near many racetracks.
And VIR.
Ah,
and I go by VIR doing
jealous.
the drive, yeah.
If only. Well, so at least when I go back to the Midwest, I can be around a lot of tracks. But right now, we're going to watch up in the Northeast here in upstate New York here at Watkins Glen International. Let's see what Tobias Burka can do with this pole position. He tries to time the start. Oh, but he doesn't quite time it right. He has to check up behind the pace car. Nobody able to overtake him. No incidents because of that as the green flag comes out for the sprint race today. He's under a little bit of attack from Callum Wright down into the 90. Almost cars getting into one another at the back of the pack, but otherwise it's clean. Let's go to the TCRs.
Yeah, they got single file quite quickly with Marcus Walton ahead of Jens Ludwig, Tobias Olsen, Chris Howard, and Neil Soontage, and of course Nicholas Morelli hasn't even left his pit stall yet. But now's when things get interesting, Joe. They're all getting a toe off of each other, and they're coming up to crunch zone, the inner loop.
In fact, we got a battle for the lead in the GT cars, but Burka once again holds off Callum Wright despite the slipstream, so he's not able to get him. What about the TCRs down into there? Walton also not quite under attack from Ludwig.
Yeah, only one change in position in TCR so far, and that's that Neil Soontage has gotten by Chris Howell.
We stay with the battle for the lead in the GT cars as they now come into the boot section, out of the chute and down into the toe. Burka continuing to keep Callum Wright behind him. Wright has been very quick this season. But is he quick enough to try and overtake Burka is the question. Fake giving chase behind them. He's about 0.6 of a second behind, so you can see he's not quite close enough to attack his teammate Winton following in his tire tracks.
Yeah, Tobias Olsen had the big slide going into the boot section, and that has really bunched up the cars behind him. Hoondhedge has already gone from 5th to 4th. He wants to go from 5th to 3rd, looking down the inside of Olsen. So a slight mistake by Olsen a couple of turns ago, but so far he's holding on to 3rd.
That's Howard you see on the inside of Hoondhedge coming into turn 9. This awkward off-camber corner, but wow, coming around the outside, Hoondhedge finds the speed somehow, and Howard is going to have to try again later.
So Nicholas Morelli has got going, but obviously far behind the pack, and the problem is a 15-minute race. Well, they'll be over in 6-7 laps at this rate. He's going to have to hope for some kind of incident there, Captain.
Yeah, it's about a 19-second gap from 5th to 6th in that TCR class. Speaking of which, gaps have increased up at the front of the GT cars. Burka, that time through, dropped Callum Wright by a significant chunk. 0.7 of a second between himself and second place now.
Yeah, so we saw on the opening lap how the toe up the main straights can create some great racing around here. The problem is when you break that toe, if a driver's fast enough through the technical sections to break that toe, you know, it's not all straights. If you are a good road course racer, you can still come out on top.
Which certainly seems to be the case for Burka right now. In fact, I'd say that Fake is a bigger threat to Callum Wright anymore, trying to see if he can get himself up to second place. Right on board currently with Alex Fake, the blue and black machine just behind the white and black Audi GT3 of Callum Wright that you see in front of us.
Yeah, not missing a whole lot back in TCR right now. Walton and Ledvig are pulled away from Olsen and...
Boom! Big accident for Callum Wright. Almost bounces back into the racing line. But unfortunately, turn 10 bites him.
And that's what's tricky about Watkins Glen. We say that it's a simple circuit as far as road courses go, but there's a lot of grass out here, a lot of walls, and when you do make a mistake, that they can eat you up.
Wow, that was a nice avoidance there from, let's see, that was Sam Winton that we saw making a dodge around, but we're watching on board with Chris Howard here on the replay.
Good news.
Go ahead.
Good news for Callum Wright fans, of course, as he'll be back in racing in about 20 minutes' time for the feature race. The bad news is he'll have to start all the way at the back.
There's no spare cars in this series, so he has to come in and get repairs if he wants to get back out there, which, with it being the sprint race, I'm not sure that he'll really be able to do much. So we continue to watch Howard try to chase Hoondhedge, who is on the back of Olsen. As we now look at Walton. And
oh, Walton got too much curb! He drifted it through the inner loop.
Wow. Perfect demonstration of these forward wheel drive cars.
This is like watching Jason Plato.
We were warned by the organizer that these cars do not like the curbs through this inner loop. You can see Walton clearly didn't like it there.
Yeah, no, what Walton did there is he went on YouTube and watched Jason Plato save at Brands Hatch and remembered he could do that.
So great heads up from him using that front wheel drive. Ledvig still behind him, of course, and he'll be looking out for mistakes like that to see if he can take advantage. Amazingly, they were not caught by Olsen behind them, back in third. In fact, Walton just, it's almost like he didn't skip a beat.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
The heartbeat, maybe, yeah.
He's just a good driver and able to hold on to it.
He comes back onto the front stretch. But what I was about to say before that happened is credit to Ledvig. He is keeping him in touch. He's using this slipstream to good effect. And he's making sure that Walton's not able to dominate the field like he has in previous races.
Yeah, well, now the advantage Ledvig has is he knows the next corner. Well, I mean, there's a couple of turns here, but really the next turn they have to worry about is the inner loop again. Walton almost wrecked their last lap, so you would think that Walton would take it a bit more cautious this time around, and that could give Ledvig an opportunity to get right on his rear wing.
He closes in, but not quite enough. He gets it down to about 0.3 of a second before they have to brake and weave through that inner loop one more time. And then it's off and swinging through the carousel, and they plunge downhill off the main course into the boot section. Down in GT3. A little bit of a fight brewing for second place. Burke has dropped Alex Thake, and now he's not only got his teammate Winton, but look at Payne back there in fourth.
So the nice thing about these sprint races, even if they do get spread out, you're seeing what both classes top four covered by just a few seconds.
This is a great run by Payne here. A little bit poor off the exit of the 90. Still, he's going to be reeled back in as they pick up speed. 140 miles an hour already weaving through the S's up to the top of the hill where they start to reach 150, 160 miles an hour. And they're going to have to brake, but once again, Payne not able to take advantage. Sam Winton will stay in the third spot. He's got to keep an eye on that mirror.
This race is going on for a little bit longer than I thought it would, Joe. They're 4 laps in right now and halfway points. I think about 7-8 laps we're looking at here. And to that effect, there is a chance for lap traffic. And we'll see if that affects GT3s if they do catch a tail end of the TCR field.
Yeah, Morelli with his late start is going to be the first that they'll catch. And he's got about a quarter of the track back to Perka. And Nick Brown had something happen. Checking to see. This was in the chute, it looks like, just now. Let's pull up the replay. I don't think he hit anything.
He's not on track, so he would have taken a tow then.
Okay, you're going to see the car spin. And he decides he's just had enough of today and takes a tow before the car behind gets to him.
Yeah, well, it's probably him trying to avoid an incident with Lucas Eichelberg. So that'll move Lucas up a position. The fifth of the 7 GT3 starters. Cameron Wright is already out of this race.
Oh, and as we look off the back of Walton, has he started to drop Ledvig? Has Ledvig lost the slipstream here? This could be a critical moment for the number 84.
Yeah, and that not too surprising, honestly, on the basis that we know Walton normally comes in the long run a little bit. He struggles with the colder tyres. But the problem for Ludwig now is if he doesn't have Walton's slipstream anymore, he's not too far up the road from Olsen and Huntedge.
James Payne took a big look on Sam Winton up into the inner loop this time. Wasn't able to make a pass, but Winton was going ultra defensive down that backstretch. The battle for the podium is really on for the GT class.
Battle for podium in GT, and like I say, I anticipate a battle for second in TCR by the end of this year.
They come out of the toe of the boots, both of them using as much track as possible on that steep climb uphill. Sometimes you can see passes up here into the heel of the boot, but certainly aren't going to this time because both Winton and Payne spread apart off through this section. Continuing to climb back uphill, cresting over turn 9, way wide there for Sam Winton. This could offer an opportunity for Payne. He pokes his nose in, hard to make a pass here into the penultimate turn. He knows it, he's not going to risk it yet.
Yeah, that is definitely not the desired passing opportunity. And even though you can make a move down into turn 1, you might not want to. Because then if you do that, the driver you pass might just counterattack you going up the hill.
There was a slide in turn 9 from Winton, and then Payne had a slide in the final corner. So mistakes coming out from each of them. And the track temperatures are rising, though not drastically. It's only about 92 degrees Fahrenheit currently.
Yeah, and as we watch this battle, I'll tell you, Olsen has gotten to the rear wing of Ludwig. He's not about to pass him right now, but he's on him. I mean, he's caught him, he's there.
We're watching from the gearbox there of Winton. No attack there. It'd be hard to pass in these few corners, so I think we got a chance now to step back to Ludwig and Olsen.
Here we go, so Ludwig's caught him. He actually got quite close to him under braking for the boot section this time by, but got a little bit too close and actually had to back off. So that's Ludwig in front in that, well, it's actually a white and yellow 84 car, but the back of it's black. And then we're riding on board Olsen here in the 32 machine. Now Olsen's going to get around, Ludwig's going to go defensive, and I don't think a pass will be made here, Joe, but how about going up a hill?
Well, that's what I was wondering. Should Ludwig maybe let him through? Because he could maybe just draft right back. Olsen with a decent exit using that paved runoff at turn 1. And as they climb the hill, they pick up speed, 120 miles an hour now. He's starting to reel him in as the slipstream comes into effect. You can see him getting closer, less than a car length away, covering off the inside. Ludwig going to make life difficult for Olsen. Side by side, up to the corner. Eventually, they're going to have to get on the binders as they throw the anchor out. Still nobody willing to give up. They bang wheels coming through there. Another little touch. Still nobody going off course, but a forceful move for Tobias Olsen to get himself into second place.
And as soon as this battle finishes up here, the Winton Payne battle is coming up a hill, about to do the exact same thing.
But a little bit wide there for Olsen down into the chute. The battle continues on screen. Still side by side. Nope, he's not going to have enough speed. Don't have to go to that other battle because it never erupted. This is where the action is.
Yeah, Payne looked like he actually backed off before they got to the top of the hill, so Winton is able to hold on to third place now. They are getting into a bit of TCR traffic, like we anticipated. You see times running down, not a whole lot left. Here we go.
Another little look up to the heel. Maybe Ludwig trying to get into the head of Olsen. See if he can get that spot back. Tobias with a few mistakes here now that he has gotten by. The tires should be up to temperature by this point here in the TCR class. They tend to take a little bit to try and heat up. Coming out of the final corner. Wow, Olsen really getting right up to the grass there.
Yeah, someone will have to explain to me if Tobias is a common name over in Europe, because our other Tobias is about to get the white flag, actually. Coming through turn 10 now.
Burka now coming down to the final corner. He's got a big gap. What was a close fight for the lead has gone way south for Alex Thake. 4.6 seconds now between himself and Burka.
Yeah. I think Thake's made a mistake at some point, actually, because Payne maybe as well, because Winton was on the defensive trying to maintain third place. Now all of a sudden he's the aggressor. He's right behind Thake for second.
And they come up the hill. Could Winton maybe steal this one away? James Payne, having dropped away, has given him the opportunity to focus forward. The number 17 has got the slipstream. I don't think he's quite close enough, though.
And Burka, I don't think, Tobias Burka, our overall leader, I don't think he's going to catch our TCR leaders by the time the race ends. So they've still got a couple more laps of racing. And Jens Ludwig has actually had a bit of a mistake just now that gives Tobias Olsen a bit of breathing room in second. So Ludwig just put a couple wheels off a couple of turns ago, Joe, and it cost him just the tiniest bit of time.
As we take a look at that battle, he's still close enough that maybe he could make something out of this. The question is, are they going to get passed, though, by our leader? Because Burka is coming quickly.
I don't think so. Tobias Burka still has to get by Chris Howard here. He's just thinking about the checkered flag. He might not even risk passing Howard. 4 seconds lead as he comes up with just 2 turns left to go. Looks like Fake might have second lockdown as well.
Yep, you're right. Looks like Burka going to lift behind Howard. I thought Howard would let him by because maybe he didn't want to try and race for another lap here. And he is going to. As our leader comes off the final corner, Tobias Burka with another win this season, this time at Watkins Glen in the sprint race.
And Fake just ahead of Winton, and then Payne will come home in fourth. So the TCR race is still going on. Walton still holding a pretty nice lead in that. The battle will be for second between Olsen and Ledvig.
In fact, Ledvig's got a decent run as they come towards the inner loop. You can see him there in the background as he ducks to the inside once more. Just can't take advantage. Could see a few more mistakes, so we've seen Olsen drift a little bit wide, especially in the boot section. He's got to keep it clean.
I think Ledvig actually did make Olsen make a mistake there. I think Olsen carried too much speed into the inner loop in defense and kind of overshot it a little bit, and that helped Ledvig running back down. This is the exit, by the way. Right there is where Ledvig put a couple of wheels off for last lap. He didn't do it this time and so he's still going to be in striking range. All this, of course, going on behind Walton, who's just a couple of turns away from winning his race and further extending that points lead.
Olsen Ledvig really squaring off the exit of the toe of the boot, and though it got him a decent run, he's going to send it in deep just to see if he can make something happen, but the answer to that is no, unfortunately. And there's very few opportunities to pass from here on out with not many heavy braking zones. So up ahead of them, Walton, who has been a dominant force this season, didn't make mistakes, didn't have to worry about those cold tires this time. He had it under control. A little bit of threat early on was nothing to make him sweat, despite a mistake. The number 10 is going to take another victory here at New York.
Yeah, and they'll hold station behind them. Tobias Olsen getting second place, Jens Ludwig in third.
And, of course, Chris Howard's already done, so that's our field. Let's go through our finishing order here today with all the drivers done now. Tobias Burka with a victory in the GT class with Alex Thake finishing in second. Then you've got Sam Winton in P3, followed by James Payne in the fourth spot. Lucas Eidelberg comes home in fifth, the last of the cars to finish in that GT class. Brown and Callum Wright finished in sixth and seventh in the GTs respectively. Sam?
Marcus Walton looked like he was under pressure early on in that race for the TCR win, but he ended up getting it anyway. Tobias Olsen beat Jens Ludwig in the battle for second and third. Niels Hoontage comes home in fourth place, the last car on the lead lap overall. Chris Howard 1 lap down in fifth, and then Nicholas Morelli never really got a chance to battle anyone, but he still went out there and drove around for the fans and finishes in sixth.
I always like to see drivers drive anyways, just for the challenge of it. We're going to come back after a short little break. Hopefully we'll have a few drivers to talk to for interviews. We've still got one more race to go after that as well, so stick around here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International. We just watched the sprint race here today for the V-TEC GTR series. We have our winner in the GT class ready to talk to us with his second win of the season. Tobias Burka joins us here in the booth. Tobias, congratulations. It looked like there was a little bit of a challenge at the very start, but you seemed to run away after that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, race went pretty well. I could control the pace from the first position, and yeah, I just drove it home.
And that's really what you needed to do today, because that closes in the points significantly between yourself and Callum Wright with the problem that he had on track. Knowing that, you could potentially take the points lead next race, depending on how Callum finishes. So what does that do for your strategy in the feature race?
Oh, well, nothing really. The feature race is a little bit longer, so I will take it easy because I already have enough points and I just need to finish in a good position. Let's see. Let's just see. And well, yeah, I'm not really going for anything at this point because, as I said, I'm already very good in the position. So I just see what's going to happen.
I like that Nico Rosberg method. One race at a time. Just take it as it comes. Obviously, this seems to be a pretty good track for you, considering you put it on pole as well. Do you consider Watkins Glen one of your stronger ones?
Well, not really, actually. I was a bit surprised that I had such a good qualifying. And I was also surprised that Caleb didn't finish in front of me. But I thought at first that he had no practice and he was going to have a faster pace in the race. But I don't know what happened to him. And yeah, then I was alone. But Watkins Glen is a bit of a tricky track because the rear can get very light and then can be over very soon. But yeah, it went good and I had a lot of fun.
Looked fun out there. Congratulations on the victory. That was our winner, Tobias Burka. Up next, the winner in the TCR class, Marcus Walton, ready to talk to Sam.
Yeah, Marcus, congrats on the win, but it wasn't without some pressure from behind, and we saw you have a nice little slide there through the inner loop one lap.
Hello, thank you. Yes, the slides. Yeah, the car is very bumpy over those curbs in the bus stop. But I think it might have looked more dramatic than it was. In these cars being front-wheel drive, you just floor it and you will save it very easy. But yeah, it must have looked cool and glad I could win, yeah.
Yeah, no, it did look very cool indeed, and it also looks cool seeing you get another victory. You certainly seem to have the handle on this car. How tricky is Watkins Glen for you? Do you enjoy the circuit?
I do enjoy it a lot, and well, tricky. It's okay. There are harder circuits, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Always, what's dangerous here is going too wide into the bus stop. But yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think you had to worry about that this race. Well, we'll go let you get ready for the second event, and best of luck.
Thank you.
That was our winner in the TCR class, Marcus Walton. We have Alex Thake, who was second in the GT class, ready to talk to us. Alex, you, for a brief moment, had sights on Burka, and then he started to pull away. If anything, is it fair to say that you were sweating a bit with your teammate getting close behind towards the line there?
Towards the end, yeah, he managed to get some pace out, and I was slowing down a bit, so I was a bit worried, but we sort of just managed to keep it in front of him in the end, so...
This, of course, puts you in a good spot for the feature race starting on the front row. You started in fourth in the first race. This will give you maybe a better chance to attack Tobias at the start. Are you going to be aggressive down into the 90, or do you think it's better to maybe try and take it easy since you got 30 minutes to go?
I honestly think Tobias is going to be quicker, so I might have a quick go at the start, but if I don't feel it's on, I'm probably just going to drop back and just try and secure whatever we can get really, because Cam's going to be coming through the field as well, so he's going to be quite quick. So it's be a case of just holding him off as long as we can.
Well, we'll be keeping an eye on that run down to the 90, as well as I'm sure Tobias will be now. And again, congratulations on a podium.
Thank you.
Alex Thake, second place here. And then we have second place in the TCR class as well, Tobias Olsen.
Yeah, Tobias, congrats on the decent finisher.
Yeah, thank you.
It won't take too long because I know we got this 30-minute race coming up. How was the battle out there? It looked it was impressive from where we were sitting.
Yeah, I got off to a pretty bad start. I don't know really what happened. I lost a few seconds on on P1 and P2, and then I managed to catch up to Jens, I think it was, who was ahead of me, and then I made a pass around the around the bus stop stick, so that was pretty nice.
So what are your goals heading into this second race?
Yeah, I think I can. Hopefully, I can stick with Marcus's pace and try to fight for P1. That's my goal, at least. I felt I've at least for the last half of the first race, I think I was pretty close on speed. So I think I should be able to have a good fight, hopefully.
All right, well, we'll let you jump in the session then. Thanks for coming to talk to us, and hopefully we'll speak to you in about 30 more minutes.
Yeah, thank you.
Tobias Olsen, our second place finisher in the TCR class. We're going to take a quick break as we get ready for the feature race coming up in just a few moments. Don't go away. We'll go green very soon here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International. We're watching the warm-up here in the late afternoon at Watkins Glen. After our morning sprint race for the V-TEC GTR series, we're getting ready for the 30-minute feature. We'll be starting in a few minutes' time. We'll get to the grid when they start to line up here in a moment. But if you missed out on the first one, we saw, of course, Tobias Burka take the win in the GT class, and we saw Marcus Walton take the win in the TCR class. And they will be gridded up according to the order that they finished in that race. So our drivers who wrecked out early or for some reason decided they couldn't finish the race, Sam, are certainly going to have a few passes to make.
Yeah, and for our fans watching at home, don't worry too much about that clock in the top left corner. That is just for safety cushion for everyone to load their way into the session. Everybody is here, so take 10 minutes off that clock. We're going racing in 1.5 minutes.
You can see the sun getting pretty low, and it's actually interestingly stayed about the same temperature on the track surface. It's only about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. If anything, a little bit cooler than the end of our morning race earlier today. Should actually be getting cooler as the race goes on, the sun continuing to go down. It is currently 7 p.m. virtual standard time, though this is set in May. So don't worry. If it was 7 p.m. in New York right now, I think it would actually be dark if they had set this currently in November. So just a few seconds left to go before we get going racing. We certainly got some interesting information, some data from that first race, Sam, because we saw the draft have a pretty decent effect, it seemed, in the GT cars as well as those TCRs.
Yeah, and it was interesting talking to the drivers after the first session. Some of them saying, yeah, this guy's faster than me. I'm probably going to try and just finish behind him or, keep tabs on him. And some drivers saying, hey, I think I'm faster than this guy. I think I can beat them. And of course, if you have that kind of mentality, Watkins Glen is the kind of track where that can pay dividends for you. Or it can end up catastrophic.
And the checkered flag is now out here for our warm-up session. So the grid is now set. Let's go through your starting order here for our feature race, our final feature race before we have our Enduro next round. Tobias Burka is on the pole with Alex Thake starting in second. He said that he is going to look to try and be aggressive if possible down into the first corner. Sam Winton is going to be starting in third. He looked good at the end of last race. Could he be good long-term in this car, taking care of the tires? James Payne will be starting in fourth with Lucas Eidelberg in P5. Then you get to our drivers who DNF'd in the sprint race. Nick Brown in sixth. Callum Wright, who even though he has the points lead, is starting last today in the feature.
Well, things have been going to Marcus Walton's favour throughout the season and also in race 1 here at Watkins Glen. However, Tobias Olsen, just like Alex Sake in the class in front of him, says, hey, I think I have what it takes to get this job done. Jens Ludwig got the third podium spot in the first race and he will be rolling off from third for this one. Niels Huntedge, Chris Howard and Nicholas Morelli will round out the field. Nicholas Morelli definitely with a point to prove after he wasn't able to start on the grid for race 1.
And qualified in second on race 1. So he could have the speed to try and charge through the field. He'll certainly be one to watch out for as they currently start on the pace lap down through the 90. The good news is for those drivers who are looking for an aggressive start is they do have that paved runoff, and that's all fair game out there, Sam. So I wonder if that could help them try and make those dives into the first turn.
Yeah, it definitely could. Obviously, the pole sitter of both classes, the race winner of both classes, has an advantage on these rolling starts on choosing when they get to go, which could give them an advantage through that first turn. But really, I don't know if we'll see a whole lot of shaking up happening in turn 1. But if you get a good exit at turn 1, of course, I think up here towards the inner loop, we could definitely see a bit of drama on the opening lap as drivers attempt to make something happen. Remember though, if they don't have a good start for whatever reason on the opening lap, these drivers do get to have a pit stop during this race, this 30-minute race, and that will obviously happen somewhere between their 15 and 20-minute mark normally.
They're weaving through the inner loop and now down into the carousel. It always amazes me thinking about driving this track before they had that inner loop down into that plunging right-hand banked corner and how scary that must have been back in the day. But since then, safety standards have caused them to obviously add that chicane in. And pretty much every series in the real world uses that inner loop since it's too much speed heading down into that long right-hander. Now they come down into the boot, which was added in the early 70s here on the circuit. It's part of obviously extending the course and changing the layout. Also worth noting, Sam, that that cup layout was not how the old course used to be before they added this boot. It was very different. In fact, the starting line was on a different straight, and the first corner was not the 90. That was the last corner back in the day.
I wasn't aware of that, but it doesn't surprise me too much. I think NASCAR had a road course at the very start of NASCAR history, which was Riverside, I believe, which was only about, 5 turns? And then gradually they've added tracks with more turns as the years have gone on. Of course, NASCAR did its first race at Sonoma this year with the carousel in it, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yes, they did, yeah. They've switched off of the Cup course back to what they used to run in the 90s when NASCAR started going to Sonoma. You can see the pace lap is finishing here, and much farther backed off Tobias Berger, who kind of jumped the gun a little bit last time. Looks like he's giving a lot more space to that Porsche pace car, trying to get himself that good run off the turn. Did he time it right this time? Yes, he did. Pace car is in, green flag is out, and Berger well safe from his rival, Sam Winton, down to the inside, actually ahead of TheC. He managed to get into that second place ahead of his teammate. Going to deny that aggressive move into the first turn. No problems for this class. Let's go to the TCRs.
Olsen did not get a good start, and Ludwig actually got the best start. He timed it perfectly, got the run on Walton, and he is the one making the move, the pass for the lead, going up the hill. Jens Ludwig leads. Marcus Walton down to second. Olsen all the way down to fourth, although he's fighting to get that back from Niels Hundhedge. There's a three-way fight for second going on in TCR as they go up the hill, led by Marcus Walton.
Olsen gets a little bit of a bump draft from Morelli, and that's going to be enough to get him in a second place, but can he hold on to it? Morelli going to go for third as well. Walton is struggling here on these cold tires as he falls from the pole to first.
Colin Wright. Fourth. Colin Wright has had another off.
Oh, wow, a championship leader. Not sure if he hit anything, though. This was in the chute. I think he managed to stay out of the wall.
Yeah, this was a scary moment. You don't normally lose it there and get away unscathed.
It was awful tight with the wall, though.
Yeah, but it does cost him track position. So, what can Marcus Walton do? Because he is back in fourth right now and actually fighting to hold on to fourth. Niels Hundhedge on his outside. Not the kind of start we expected to see from him.
Yeah, and he said before that he's not as good on those cold tires getting it warmed up, and we've seen it multiple times. Hundhedge with a look to the inside, down through turn 9, almost getting into the side of him as they race very carefully up and over that crest. Walton able to hold him off, and now he's really got to set his sights forward because Morelli, Olsen, and Ludwig have managed to get by, but can they keep ahead? It's a 30-minute race. There's more time, Sam, for him to try and overtake.
Yeah, and he can always do it in the pits if he can't get done on track. Niels Hundhedge really wants fourth place, and Walton's not in a hurry to give it to him. He's going defensive down the straight. Chris Howard kind of just running behind, not getting tangled up in any of this for now, although now he might be because looks like Hundhedge took a very wide line and Howard might be able to get a piece of that. All this, of course, is allowing Ludwig to run away with the lead a little bit. Tobias Olsen still has him in sight, so.
Yeah, that's the good news, at least, that if he does start to make inroads on our leaders, he's got a bit of a leapfrog situation where he can jump from the draft of one car to another unless they start to break farther apart. No attack from Hundhedge this time into the inner loop. Walton stays safe and he holds on to fourth.
Things kind of close for second place in GT, although as I say that, Sam Winton just had a big disconnect. And what happened is, knowing that he might have been involved in a collision, I think he intentionally ran off the course and lost a bunch of positions doing that. Now, there's no point really in showing a replay of it because you won't see his car, he disappeared. But I think he kind of just pulled off to the side, knowing he didn't want to get involved in a collision if he suddenly reappeared in front of another car.
Well, right now he's appeared in front of in front of Callum Wright. And Wright is got to within 0.6 of a second. So this could be his first car that he picks off. He's already 5 seconds back from Burka. That's not a dire gap, but he's going to lose time trying to overtake cars, most likely, as they come down the front stretch. And Winton still safe here as they plunge through the 90 and climb back up the hill. Fastest lap of the race now went to Alex Thake.
For fans who wanted to see someone other than Marcus Walton win TCR, I've got bad news for you. He's made his way back up for third, and the two leaders in front of him are battling. Vince Ludwig and Tobias Olsen, the two drivers doing exactly as they were for second place at the end of the first race. They're side by side and they make contact, and that's really going to help Walton.
Absolutely. In fact, that was a horrible exit off the 90 for Ludwig. Walton rather, already by, and they haven't even got to the backstretch. Barely chopping off. Wow, he didn't leave much space at all for Ludwig.
Sam Winton has crashed. The 17 car has hit the wall and had to take a tow. Going through the chute, we'll get a replay here.
Yeah, he was slow off the corner. He tried to go defensive. Wright snuck to the inside, contact between them, and it was a hard hit into the Armco.
Well, of all these straights, that would be a problem today. I didn't expect this one to have the most action, but a lot has been happening in these two races.
It has, as we come back to the battle for the lead in the TCRs.
Oh, and look behind him, Morelli's off. That was Morelli in the wall there.
Yeah, he had some help. I think Hundhedge got into him. Initially, let's go to the replay. Oh, no, we're going to stay live because it looks like Hundhedge trying to hold off Morelli, now coming to the heel of the boot. Even though he's able to take a little bit of a peek, this is going to be hard because he's on the outside of turn 9 with a front-wheel drive car on an off-camber corner. That's going to be a tough ask. In fact, it looks like Hundhedge will hold on to fourth.
And here goes Walton for the lead underneath turn 10. He's not able to pull it off there. But Walton, who last lap was fighting to hang on the fourth place, is now fighting for the lead.
I'd say he's got those tires up to temperature. He's got to run down the front stretch. Does he try it here into the 90, or does he wait patiently? He's going to take a look, get into the head of Tobias Olsen, but only just a psychological move. Now, as he really makes his move, he gets a run and once again looks to the inside, but he has to lift. There's no space down to the inside of the S's. Olsen stays safe for the moment. This is actually pulling in Jens Ludwig. Could this be a case of a three-car fight for the lead? A draft allows Walton to get side by side down the backstretch, coming up into the inner loop. He said it's dangerous to go side by side into here. He brakes a little bit early. Both of them managing to stay out of each other, but who gets the speed off the turn? Walton looking a little bit faster, but he's on the outside now as they come to the carousel, Sam.
And I think he might pull this off. He's obviously on the undesirable outside now, but now he's on that inside line, kind of runs Olsen towards the side of the track a bit. And Olsen all of a sudden is going to have to go defensive because Ludwig's down on his inside. So once again, those two are battling for second. And as they do that, they just allow Walton to run away.
And that battle for second still not settled around the outside. Ludwig trying to come back on Olsen behind them. Don't forget about Hundhedge. And you can see we've even got a side-by-side battle between Morelli and Howard. It is. It really is.
Yeah, 1.5 seconds covering first to sixth. Right there. One camera shot.
Down and around the heel of the boot. Still, they haven't settled it out. Ludwig not able to get by Olsen, but this is helping Walton greatly. He has pulled the biggest gap of the field away from them for that first spot. Olsen off the corner as he finally got it done. Yes, he's denied Ludwig.
Now, of course, the only thing that might be hurting Walton is if he burned a bit more fuel than he... Oh, wow, big sideways moment from Ledvig through the final turn, and that's going to cost him a lot of top speed.
And Morelli as well. He had to catch it. That's going to move him back to last place. This is not what I think he expected after qualifying in second in the sprint race, still to be mired in last place in the feature, and we're already 10 minutes in.
Yeah, and I think the GT field can excuse us a little bit for covering all this action, but there has been some development there. Nick Brown has retired from the race. He had a crash at turn 10 last lap.
Riding on board with Howard now. Morelli back into that 5th spot out of the 6-car field, flopping off of the battle in front of them between Ledvig and Hundhedge as they now come into the interloop. So your order in the TCRs is Walton, Olsen, Hundhedge, Ledvig, Morelli, Howard.
Not much different from where it started. Nothing has happened in this TCR race.
Down into the chute again. And credit to Olsen, he's also gapped the rest of the field. Now that he's finally got himself a little bit of clear space, he set his sights on Walton. I'm not sure he's really got the pace underneath him to try and chase down our leader. At the very least, I'm sure he's hoping to break the draft to the 4 behind him. Let's back in to the GT group because we do have a little bit of a fight, and that's Callum Wright coming back through the field. He's up to 4th. He's looking for the podium. That's James Payne in front of him, you see, in the dark-colored Audi. Not able to do it into the inner loop and through the carousel this time. This is where he had his issue before with Sam Winton and tipped him into the wall down through the chute.
Yeah, so Callum Wright has had an interesting race, hasn't he? Trying to get back up through the field. He had that off on the opening lap. He got into Sam Winton. Nick Brown didn't put up too much of a fight against him, but obviously I think the story will change a little bit as he works his way up through the field.
After that first race, it's a 16-point gap between Burka and Wright. Even if Wright gets to 3rd place, he's still going to lose points, and I need to check to see what the points gap would be between them if they finish in that position. Actually, yes, it would give the lead to Tobias Burka because it's a 15-point swing. That's if we see Callum Wright finish in 3rd, assuming he can get to 3rd here.
So Hundhedge still ahead of Ludwig here for 3rd. That is one change in position. Behind him, Howard just had an off behind them, and that's going to give him probably a slowdown penalty, and Nicholas Morelli will likely go into 5th, because these two have been trading that last spot back and forth, and of course, Morelli, I think, would be a bit fired up, and there you go, sure enough, Howard gets a bit of a slowdown. Morelli should be fired up from the first race. We saw him running up there in the top 3 earlier on, but now here he is fighting for 5th and 6th again.
This has been a bit of a miserable day here for the number 181.
James Payne just let Callum Wright by on the braking zone for the inner loop. It looked like he just didn't put up too much of a fight, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you're right, because Callum Wright did get a nose to the inside, and he decided our points leader is going to be a little bit too fast for him to hold back. Let's take a look at that replay real quick, since we got a bit of time.
Yeah, I just happened to look over there right when the pass was taking place, and Payne rolled off so much, it almost looked like he had a problem, but I think in hindsight he just realised the position wasn't his.
So apparently, excuse me, my math is wrong. We all know that that's dangerous to do. 16 points, a 15-point swing and a 16-point deficit means he would be behind by 1 point, excuse me. Still, that is awful close to take us into what is a single race final round. Edge and Ledvig battling for 3rd place. I can tell you that Howard got by Morelli again and demoted him to last. You can see them there in the background.
Yeah, it's a shame they're battling for last, isn't it? It's been a good little scrap those two have had going on.
I'd say there's been great battles for just about, well, literally for every position in the field here in this TCR class. No attempt into the inner loop from Ledvig this time on Hundhedge. These two are teammates, we should mention. You can tell by the paint scheme on the cars.
Yep. So, obviously, keeping an eye on this, also keeping an eye on the battle for second, which will soon happen in GT3 between Alex Sake and Callum Wright. With all the dramas we've been talking about happening in Callum Wright's race through, the fact he's only 4 seconds back of our race leader, Tobias Berker, tells me he's definitely a threat for this overall win.
Oh! Was that right that we were on board with right
Yes,
there?
it was.
It was.
He's not a threat for the overall win anymore, I'm afraid.
Hard hit into the wall. He's still got the car going, and he's trying to get it turned around. He's back down to 4th position. Eidelberg is a long ways back. As long as he's not too damaged as we watch the replay, he could hold on to this 4th spot.
Just got a bit too ambitious, threw it into the left-hander, a bit too hot.
And that's exactly where he lost it on, what was it, lap 1 that we saw?
And yeah, and Hundhedge is coming in for, I can only assume, his scheduled stop. Right at the halfway point of a race. He's splitting this into 2 halves.
All right, so will this get him away from his teammate? Can he run a little bit better pace alone? Alex Thake also pitting. And this could be... Oh, and Hundhedge misses his pit stall. That's not going to help him. In fact, he might have lost that position now to his teammate. But I wonder if Thake is coming in because they were starting to catch the left traffic soon.
Yeah, Callum Wright comes in as well. He'll probably, well, we'll see how long he stays to get repairs. He might just get a fender or 2 pulled out, or he might be, the crew might be telling him, hey, you got to stay with us for a few minutes, which of course isn't good news. Even a 30-minute race is a sprint race.
Really is. Hundhedge returns last on that TCR field. Thake returns as well. He's in 4th place. Callum Wright comes back out in 5th. Lucas Eidelberg did not pit that time, so he should still be ahead of Lucas. And it was a regular stop for Callum. So if he got any repairs, they must have been extremely brief.
Yeah, the problem is that knock would have done some damage, and I'm worried for him that's going to affect his top end speed. We should make a note that Marcus Walton hasn't won this TCR race. Tobias Olsen is not too far behind him. There you see it on screen.
And Olsen is using every inch of the track. He nearly went into the grass there coming off of turn 9. So do these two come in this time in response? Let's see. This is going to cool the tires down a little bit, so it could be slower to do it that way. Walton's going to come in, but Olsen is not.
Yeah, and I wonder if we're seeing a narrow pit window here, Drew, just because of the nature of the circuit. You're on the throttle for a long time around here.
You know, I wondered about that myself. James Payne also pits. Howard is in. So quite a few drivers coming in at just about that halfway point. That seems to pay credence to your theory about fuel being a little bit tight.
Yeah, which of course will be bad if the race leader starts the final lap at like 29 minutes and 59 seconds.
And interesting to note, Alex Thake with his pit stop, he's come out behind Eidelberg, who's yet to pit and stays out another lap. This is going to cost Alex Thake time. Comes out ahead of Payne, so doesn't lose a position. He's going to want to have to dispose of Heidelberg here soon.
Yeah, he might be able to pull that off here. In fact, I think he will. He's got a nice round. He goes down to the inside. And Heidelberg, well, there he goes. He backs off. Let's Thake have it. But Thake might still have lost a bit of time with the previous turns before. We'll have to wait and see.
Walton's back out on the track, and Hundhedge is a long ways back from him, honestly. It's about 10 seconds between himself and the next car that has pitted.
Oh, look at what's happening here. These GT cars are lapping Marcus Walton. There's nothing he can really do to prevent that as Eidelberg, as Sake, and all that go by. And that could be costing him in the grand scheme of things in that battle against Tobias Olsen.
That's a good point. Speaking of leaders and battles, Tobias Burka stays out. So he's going to try and go as long as possible. Seems it wasn't quite as narrow as we thought, as we're just about 2/3 of the way through now.
Olsen coming in, Ludwig coming in, Morelli coming in. So this is as far as the TCR cars can go. So I'm very curious to see where Olsen comes out with relation to Walton. Of course, I think we've seen in the past that Walton is very good at stops, so hopefully for Olsen's sake, he has a quick one too.
Olsen in his stall. Oh, and it looked like Ludwig missed his stall. Had to back it up to get in there.
All right, Olsen's rolling. Where's Walton? He's gone by. And I think he'll be far ahead. He will be far ahead. I think it was a bit of a lengthier stop from Olsen, actually.
Yeah, he was about a second slower stationary, so that might have been the saving grace, because it looks like it's about 1.82 seconds between them. He could have been close enough to get a little bit of the draft if he had a slightly quicker pit stop. Oh, and Eidelberg just lost a position to Payne, which Lucas still hasn't pit. He needs to come in at some point.
Yeah, we got a nice little battle shaping up in TCR between Ludwig, who had a bad stop, Hundhedge, who had a mediocre stop, and Morelli, who had a good stop now. Morelli, you lose a lot of time when you come out of pits and you're going up that hill on the back straight if you had no one to draft. Morelli got really lucky in that he came out right behind these two, so he quickly was able to get back up to top speed.
So let's see what he can do here with Ludwig and Hundhedge. This will be for third place, last spot on the podium, if he can work his way forward.
So Tobias Burka still hasn't pit.
Neither has Eidelberg. Burka, has already passed the pits one more time. Eidelberg is coming up to it now. Callum Wright's nowhere near close enough to try and challenge him. And Eidelberg is coming in. That signature slower line for the pit entry.
Yeah, that's got to be annoying for the rest of the competition to see Burka not only able to win on pace, but he's saving fuel while he's doing it too.
So this will promote Wright up to fourth, and unless he has another serious drama or somebody else in front of him does, this is probably where he's going to finish. And double checking my notes on that, because that will put Burka into the lead on points. The 5 points difference after the race if they finish where they are. We see our leader, the 171. Who would have thought, especially with how fast Callum Wright and Galuska were at the start of the season, that the fight would be this close coming down to the last few races, Sam?
Yeah, well, that's one thing that's good about having shorter seasons. I mean, you don't want to make them too short, but at the same time, when you have a limited amount of races like this, as we see our race leader come in, it gives the opportunity for a couple of swings to happen.
So you're saying we need to go back to 12 rounds for F1, right?
I liked 16, 18.
We'll debate that later. As we watch our leader look for his stall. Let's hope he doesn't miss his stall as well. Finds it. It creeps in a little bit slow, but he had a decent gap back to Alex Thake, who was behind him. Thake's just coming around the last corner. It's short stops for these GT3 cars, and indeed, Burka is out and going.
Yeah, well, Burka also has the advantage there of the last pit stall, so he probably has the pit limiter turned off while he was sitting in his pit stop. Just go right back out there and pull away.
He was 2 seconds slower, interestingly, than Thake in his pit stall, but still came out about nearly 5 seconds ahead of the number 98.
So I think this is going to be a situation where Tobias Burka is going to lead every single lap of both races.
I think you might be right. I think he will, unless he has a slip up. He should not be overtaken. Talk about responding when you need it. I said coming into this broadcast that the championship was heavily weighted in favor of Callum Wright. And somehow, in the midst of it, not only has Berger responded when he needs to, but Callum Wright has faltered exactly when he didn't need to.
Am I reading correctly? I think Wright just had another spin and didn't cost him any positions, but still in fourth. Meanwhile, we have this battle going on between Ludwig and Hundhedge, teammates into the inner loop. This is where Wright just had his spin a couple of moments ago. But these two teammates have to be careful because Morelli's not too far behind them. This is for third, fourth, and fifth in TCR.
Ludwig holds on to third. Speaking of which, Olsen's run down Walton. There's only 0.8 of a second between first and second in the TCR class. So this could be on as well. So you were right, though. Callum Wright did have a little bit of an error coming out of the inner loop, and I think he touched the wall a little bit coming down.
So we got the battle for the lead, battle for third in TCR, and also a potential battle for second in the near future, Joe, between Alex Sake and James Payne in GT.
Yeah, about 1.3 seconds separate those two. So we continue to watch this fight. This is much closer, really, we see on screen. Down for that third place, trying to be settled between Hundhedge and Ludwig. Dropping back slightly too. Wonder if he's got good one-lap pace, but if race pace just isn't the thing for the 181. Down the front stretch once again, Hundhedge following in the tire tracks of the number 84. Down through the 90. Can he get enough of a run off of this first corner to finally be able to attack his teammate? He's only got 5 minutes left, so time is running out. He's got to do something soon.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the math on this as Tobias Burke is just a couple of laps away from triggering the clock, and I'm trying to give you an idea of how many laps we've got left to go as this battle continues up the hill.
Ludwig doesn't go defensive. Hundhedge to the inside, side by side, into the corner, almost coming together. Still managing to keep it clean down through the corner, losing a gobs of time. Around the outside, Ludwig has the momentum at first, but then it starts to come back in favor of Hundhedge. Still, he's going to be on the outside as they swing it into the chutes. Nobody willing to give it up to settle out this third spot, but eventually, Ludwig keeps it.
Looks like we're looking at 3 laps of racing left to go, guys, as Tobias Burke across the line. So 3 laps of these scraps left, and that's definitely enough time for Morelli to run down these two if they continue to go at it like this.
Their biggest fan for this battle has got to be Nicholas, as he gained a lot on them through that portion. Not going to go side by side through the heel of the boot, as Hundhedge is going to have to size him up for a little bit later, but he liked that draft. He liked that exit off of turn 1. He knows where he is strong. Now he's got to execute.
Meanwhile, up front, the battle between Walton and Olsen. You can see the time on your left side of the screen. It's about 2 seconds. I think Walton might have actually opened it up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, by about a second.
Yeah. And Payne.
Last looked.
You also see Payne must have had a mistake because he was not too far behind Blake at one point, but he's lost about 10 seconds to him. Fortunately, he's still going out there. I'm looking at his car. I don't see too much damage on it, so...
Watching our leader now come around to get the 2 to go sign. What a race it has been for the 171.
Yeah, kind of quiet, I'm sure, for him. Not quiet for Ludwig and Hundhedge right now. They're coming back up to the inner loop, and once again, they're going to challenge that position. Hundhedge looking down the inside of Ludwig. Ludwig, now he gets the inside as it goes back to the left. He might be able to hold on to it, although he's going to have to hold it off on the outside of the carousel. Hundhedge one tucked up on the near side, on the inside. But once again, switches back into Ludwig's favour for this left-hander. Ludwig on the inside, pulls in front, and Hundhedge might attempt a crossover. He was very gentle into the start of a corner, but too much so. And Ludwig has the position for now. And still, though, Morelli not really able to make too much inroads on them while they trade position back and forth like that. Very respectful driving going on it's between these two so far, but can they keep doing it for another 2 laps?
Respectful, and it is a national rivalry out there. Hundhedge racing from Germany with Ludwig hailing from Austria. I'm sure they'd love to have one over the other. But right now it is Ludwig who holds the higher ground as we see Walton now coming across.
Yeah, he's picked up 2 seconds over Olsen. I almost wonder if there was a mistake he had that we missed. So he's actually crossing the line with 2 laps left to go here because Tobias Berker will not put a lap on him.
You're right. Yeah, he's way too far back. Berka is going to get the white flag here in a moment. It is a little bit tight on fuel. Or excuse me, not on fuel, but on time, rather. Hopefully it's not tight on fuel for our drivers. Hopefully they timed it out right. Because we got just about 40 seconds left at the line.
Yes, so Tobias Berker comes to start the final lap, and as he does that, Ludwig and Hundhedge start their run up the hill again for this battle for 3rd place. Their teammates, they're racing respectfully, but I'm sure it's going to get tighter and tighter. How tight can it get before they start to trade body paint? Even though they have identical paint schemes, it might not be too bad. But this time Hundhedge backs out. Ludwig holds on to it.
And Hundhedge knows, I'm sure, that it didn't work out last time when he picked that side of the track. Always seems to stick with it up until they get to this point, down into the chute, where he starts to lose out. Wonder if he's thinking of trying to set him up for something different maybe here.
Barring any drama, this is really the only battle we've got left on the track in the closing moments here. But it's a pretty important one for the final step on the podium between Jens Ludwig, the 84, and the car we ride on board right now, the Nielsen Petrol 14.
I almost wonder if Berka might be able to lap these two. No, I think he might be a little too far back for that as well. Although he's getting close. And Callum Wright had another issue. Once again in the inner loop.
He can only afford so many of those before he loses 4th to Lucas Eichelberg. Here comes Marcus Walton then. He's getting ready to take the white flag. And some people may have doubted that he could walk away with this victory after the first couple of laps, but it looks like he's going to be able to do that.
Yeah, the sun not setting on his hopes for sure as it comes down over the track. Just behind him, that's the battle that we see for position. But Berka is going to be coming to the line now, taking the checkered flag, not only winning both the sprint and the feature here at Watkins Glen, but leading every lap of the race.
And Hundhedge is going underneath Ludwig through the first corner in this battle for 3rd place. So Hundhedge is going to try and put the burden on Ludwig to try and get by him going into the inner loop, but it's not going to work out. Ludwig pulls ahead again. He's in 3rd place. Hundhedge is in 4th, and Hundhedge is going to have to do it the hard way. He's going to have to try and run side by side through the inner loop.
Wheel to wheel they go. Can they manage to stay out of each other? Just barely. Ludwig stays ahead. Now it's going to have to be desperate moves from Niels Hundhedge. He doesn't even manage to stay side by side this time through the outer loop. As they come down to the chute, they're well ahead of Nicholas Morelli. So he is no threat behind unless they really start to wreck up there. So we ride on board with Ludwig, looking back at Hundhedge, Sam.
Yeah, each of these turns is a passing opportunity, but only if you're close enough, and Hundhedge is not close enough. He's going to have to try and do something. A good exit onto this back straight could be that thin, but I don't think it's good enough. I think Ludwig can defend this.
He can, but will he? Oh, there's a little look to the inside. Also, you have to wonder if Hundhedge is going to be aggressive enough to try and take this away. By the way, Olsen did take 2nd. This is to settle out the final step on the podium as we see Walton come around to take the victory here in front of them. Another win back-to-back for the number 13.
Yeah, so Olsen will get second right behind Walton here, and then the battle for third is coming through the final turn right now. Ledvig still ahead. Hoontage not going to do anything silly on his teammate. Can't really make anything happen on the exit. He put the pressure on, but Ledvig didn't make any mistakes, and he'll be rewarded with that final podium spot.
Poor Morelli, 5th place in this race. It's a disappointing day for him. Also worth noting that Callum Wright, I'm seeing, is he scored in 5th, it looks like. I believe he cut the course on his last lap because he was so damaged, and that must have black flagged him enough that they've given him a penalty. So he loses even more points, giving the advantage to Tobias Burka, even more so, coming into the final round. That's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global SimRacing Channel. We'll give you the final results as well as driver interviews. Shortly after our break, we'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International. What a race we got, both in the sprint and the feature. The 30-minute race coming up in the second of the two just finished out, and it was Tobias Burka who took another victory. He won both of them and led every lap in both races. But again, like I said, it wasn't boring because of that. Alex Thake wasn't able to challenge there in a second. James Payne had a little bit of action for part of the race, and Lucas Eidelberg, who really stayed out a long time, wound up with 4th down there in the GT class. It was Callum Wright who has really tripped over himself in this penultimate round here today and given up the points lead by his 2 horrible finishes here at Watkins Glen. He'll have some work to do. He is now on the back foot coming into the final round. Brown and Winton rounded out your field with DNFs here in the feature race in the GT class. Sam?
Yeah, I think everyone made it to the end in the TCR class, though, with Marcus Walton taking home a victory despite losing several spots at the start. Tobias Olsen kept the pressure on but came home second ahead of Jens Ledvig, who held off his teammate, and I apologise, it's Ledvig. I keep saying Ledvig for some reason. It was Niels Hoontage behind him in 4th place ahead of Nicholas Morelli, rounding out the top 5, but I'm sure Morelli won't be too pleased about that. Chris Howard at the tail end of the TCR field.
With us right now, we have our winner, Tobias Burka. And not only that, by our math, Tobias, you are now the points leader. You've overtaken Callum Wright. How does that make you feel?
Thank you. Very surprised, honestly. I'm sure he'll come back on the last round. But yeah, I'm pretty happy that I won both races here.
And by what we can tell with your late pit strategy that you used in this race, you seem to have led every single lap of the race. You said that this isn't necessarily one of your strong ones here at Watkins Glen. Are you starting to rethink that? Are you favoring it a little bit more after this week?
Well, definitely, I enjoy racing here at Watkins Glen. But as I said, and I think you saw it, it's very tricky and it can be very difficult, and especially with these setups, it can be over pretty soon. And I think a lot of people made mistakes and lost their car. I think just it's because I didn't know, I didn't see it, but I just saw, the relative, and that they couldn't get closer, and somehow they were gone. So I assumed they just made mistakes or had crashes or something like that. And this is very easy here at Watkins Glen. But yeah, I definitely enjoy racing here, and maybe I think I start to believe it'll be one of my stronger tracks.
Well, you only have one track hailing from the DH Club here on iRacing, and that's the Nürburgring, and that's where the finale is going to be. Would that be extra sweet if you can bring the championship home at your home course?
Well, definitely. I'm looking forward for the Nürburgring. I really love the Nürburgring. Not so much the GP track, but yeah, it's always fun there. Good racing, and I'm looking forward to it. And I hope I can give Callum a good challenge for the championship.
Well, today certainly proved you have what it takes to try and take the fight to him. Congratulations on the 2 wins, and we'll hopefully get to talk to you in a few weeks' time.
Thank you.
Up next, our winner in the TCR class, ready to talk to Sam. Marcus Walton also went back-to-back today.
Yeah, let's see if we can get Marcus here in the booth.
Yeah, we got him. Looks like we can't. Here we go. Now we've got
them in. The door was stuck on the commentary booth here, but we got Marcus in. Marcus, congrats on your win again today. That was a tough start.
Hello. Yes, I didn't get the best entry into the S's because I was battling in turn 1 and I had to lift, and that costs a lot of time, obviously, on the straight. And yeah, didn't want to force it in the bus stop neither.
Yeah, can you talk about the first few opening laps? Not just you, but the whole pack. I think there was one point where all 6 cars were covered by 1.5 seconds. That must have been you must have been on edge.
Yes, on cold tires, it's really, really tight. It just doesn't turn in, and yeah, I guess we go all the same pace because there's not much you can push.
Well, you ended up coming up ahead, and obviously this is looking very good for you in points. If you haven't sealed the championship, things are looking in your favor anyhow heading into the final race. How are you looking forward to that enduro race? Do you like the longer one?
Indifferent. I like both, but I was thinking maybe I ask Stefan if I can race in the GT3 now that the TCR has decided to try something different. But we'll see. Definitely looking forward to the race, no matter in what class.
Stefan just posted an emoji in our chat that I think indicates he's considering it. So we'll let you discuss that with him later. But yeah, congrats on a dominant season in TCR. It's been fun to watch.
Thank you.
Up next, we have second place in the GT class, Alex Thake, second in both races today. And Alex, this one didn't quite look as exciting. Things got a little bit spread out in the feature.
Yeah, things just happened. Callum made a mistake a few times. Sam had a weird issue at some point, which dropped him quite far. And I think also James was had an issue. He crashed into the wall at some point. So I think it's just a race of survival, really. If you just didn't make a mistake, you would have got to the end.
It certainly looked like it for a few drivers. We saw Callum Wright having a lot of spins and problems out on track. How did the car feel from inside? With this being a fixed setup, obviously everybody was kind of on an even playing field, but what did it feel like for you?
Understeery and then a bit twitchy, especially in the bus stop, and as you go into the boot, the corner before there, it gets quite light, and so that seems to be where a lot of the issues come from. It's not exactly an easy car to drive around here.
It looked a little demonic for a few drivers. So knowing that, how do you feel your chances are coming into the final round at the Nürburgring? You're a little bit down in the points fight, but these good results are certainly going to help put you in a little better position.
Yeah, having the string of good results has helped. Being a bit of a late starter, so sort of automatically removing from contention, really. But good results. Nürburgring's a track I know. Driven at different cars, though. Mostly driven LMP1, so I don't know how it's going to relate to the R8. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
We'll keep an eye out for you. That was Alex Thake, second place finisher here today in the feature race at Watkins Glen. Up next, it was twin second places as well for Olsen. So let's let Sam talk to him.
Yeah, we got Tobias Olsen here. Tobias, another good second place run, but it looked like you could have had the win at a couple of points.
Yeah, I don't know what happened at the end. I think Marcus might have conserved his tires a bit better. He just had his speed on me for the last 5 laps or so. So, yeah. Next time I got to get better at that, I think.
Yeah, because it looked like you had him down to within a second at the with just a few laps left to go, like you said, and then he pulled away from you. Talk to us about the opening few laps, because it was crazy there in the TCR field. There was one point the whole field was covered by 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, I got a pretty bad start again, as I did in the first race, but then I managed to. I don't know what happened to Marcus in the first corners, but he fell back, and then yeah, it was pretty crazy. I barely remember what happened actually. So.
Hey, that's what broadcasters for. You can go back and watch it all again, relive all the fun again. Well, like we mentioned, obviously, second place here, Marcus Walton has had a pretty incredible season, but there's still one race left at the Nürburgring. What are your thoughts going into that race?
Yeah, I just hope I can challenge for P1 again. That's my goal, to win one final race before the season ends. I've been close a couple of times and had the lead in 2 or 3, probably 2 races now. So hopefully I can grab a win in the last one. That's my goal.
All right. Well, we wish you the best with that, and thanks for coming out, putting on a great show for us today, and coming to talk to us.
Yeah, thanks. It was a good race.
Second place finisher in the TCR class, Tobias Olsen. And we're going to wrap things up after that as we're done with interviews. Again, one more round to go, so there's still more action left to come here in the championship. But a big thank you, of course, to the V-TEC GCR series GTR series, excuse me, for bringing us on for a season of coverage. And also thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts. You can see them listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Sam, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check us out on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to help support the channel, check out our merchandise store. You can find a link in the description below where it says gsrc.storenvy.com. Head on over to our YouTube page. While you're at it, make sure and hit that big red subscribe button as well so that you don't miss a moment here on the GSRC. As we mentioned, the final round in an endurance race at the Nürburgring GP course. It's not at the Nordschleife, don't worry. That'll be Thursday, December 5th at 1:45 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.